Our last video looked at how we turn an idea into a plan that can actually be built. We saw how plans are taken off the page and brought into three-dimensional reality, and then tested to see if they can do their job. In this video, we'll see how the rest of the design process helps to bring products to life. Step 5 of the design process is to evaluate the solution. At this step, the designer has a few important tasks. They must be careful because at this stage, the design process is nearly complete and a lot of difficult work has been done to get here. But the designer still needs to take it slow and not rush the solution through to the end. They must critically evaluate the results of the prototype tests. They'll spend time reflecting on the design. They will compare the solution with the design brief and see if the design meets all criteria and constraints while solving the problem. They may need to troubleshoot problems with the design and work to optimize the solution. As changes are made, they need to revise design documents from earlier in the process to reflect the new changes. Pretty much any design in history still has room for improvement at this stage, so the designer should document any recommendations for improvement in the design. In real-world products, these improvements might not be made right away, but might serve as a starting point when designers sit down to redesign the product for a re-release, as we see with cars, clothes, gaming systems, phones, and lots of other consumer products that release updated versions every so often. Troubleshooting is a logical, systematic search for the source of a problem in order to devise a solution. If a prototype isn't functioning as expected, that may not necessarily indicate a flaw in the design. The problem could be the result of an error in the way it was built. But to be certain, the engineer embarks on a mini problem-solving process within a problem-solving process to gather information about the problem and figure out why the prototype is misbehaving. Maybe the issue warrants design changes, or maybe it's a simple issue that can be corrected in the prototype. To optimize a design means to enhance, adjust, and perfect it so it performs at its highest potential. It's not typical for a prototype to work flawlessly on its first try. Usually the designer has to spend time tweaking and adjusting the prototype to get it to perform at its best. Sometimes they discover simple changes that should be made in the design, such as using a different kind of fastener to hold parts together, or making a part from a different material to avoid friction or wear. These minor design improvements should still be reflected in the CAD models and technical drawings made at earlier steps. The solution is nearly ready to present, but there are still products that never make it past this stage. Before moving on, you need to ask yourself, is the prototype performing at its highest level possible? Does the design satisfy all the criteria and constraints of the project? Does the solution solve the problem? If the answer to any of these questions is no, you may need to return to earlier steps in the design process to make some corrections. At this stage, this usually means going back one step and making minor adjustments. But if the design breaks constraints from the design brief, or fails to solve the problem, the design team might have to go back a long way and redo a significant amount of work to get a working solution. If the answer to these questions is yes, you're ready to move on to step 6. Step 6 of the design process is to present the solution. By step 6, we might have a working design solution, but that isn't quite the end of the process. At this stage, the designer is going to show off the working solution in a variety of ways. They're going to create a project portfolio, which is a collection of work that showcases the evolution and development of the idea into a working solution. Designers typically don't just come up with new technology and then keep it to themselves. They show off their developments to the world. They might present their work to many different stakeholders in the design process, including the client, who asked for the design in the first place, consumers who will ultimately use the design. They may present to superiors within their own company or to other engineers or design teams who may be working on a different aspect of the project. They might also present the designs to manufacturers or tradespeople who will actually be the ones to build the designs. The way a designer presents information about the product will be different for each one of these stakeholders. The client might be interested in seeing the concept drawings, the prototype, and some of the test data and statistics. The manufacturers might be interested in seeing working drawings and cost calculations. The consumer might only be interested in seeing the prototype. Some presentations might be in the form of a small private meeting, while others might be done on a stage in front of a large audience and television cameras. The ability to communicate appropriately with a variety of different individuals is a key skill that designers should have. Otherwise, it would be difficult for people outside of the design team to understand the product. With a clever solution to the original problem, the design team is ready to launch the product. Let's have a look at the final presentation of the IDEO Group's shopping cart design.
There it is! There it is! So we took the best elements out of each prototype.
The cart, which is designed to cost about the same as today's carts, is different in every other way.
What do you think?
Well, I'm very proud of the team. I think it's great.
Does this work for you?
Works for me great. It's also beautiful.
The cart's wheels turn 90 degrees so it can move sideways. No more lifting up the rear in a tight spot. And you shop in a totally different way. The bags are hung on hooks on the cart's frame. Remember, there is no basket here.
At first, I was a little shocked, but I think you have some fantastic ideas here. It needs a little refining, but I think that it's great. I mean, we would want them.
She also gave us some really good comments about how we can make this thing better.
A lot of hours. Also, an open mind, a boss who demands fresh ideas be quirky and clash with his, a belief that chaos can be constructive, and teamwork, a great deal of teamwork. And these are the recipe for how innovation takes place.
Most products are designed to be mass-produced. As soon as the design team is done developing a product, it is released to manufacturers, who start to make the product, and to sales and marketing professionals who spread the word about the product and get it on the store shelves. Finally, the product makes it to the consumer. Manufacturers, consumers, and business people will each provide feedback about the product to the design team, who cycles through the design process repeatedly, making improvements every time. Throughout the design process, there is a heavy emphasis on documentation. Designers formally write, draw, and document all their thoughts, ideas, and plans at every step of the way. There are good reasons for this. When the design team begins to develop the next generation of the product, it will be helpful to look back on past ideas, test results, and design decisions to help them design a better product. The documentation keeps group members on the same page and helps them communicate with each other. Another major reason to document projects is to protect your ideas. Most designers seek patents for their inventions. A patent is a form of legally binding protection for a design or an idea, and it can guarantee the inventor exclusive rights to that idea for as long as 20 years. That means the inventor has a 20-year head start to make and sell their product before anyone else is allowed to try. This encourages people to take risks, invent, and push the limits of what is possible in technology. Just when it seems like the design process has come to a close, it begins all over again from step one. The design team considers problems with the existing product and may take advantage of opportunities to use new technology to improve the product. The cycle repeats over and over and over again. This is how the products we live with have evolved through countless iterations to exist as they are today, and they will continue to evolve as long as engineers are here to solve problems.